What is up? Y'all see him. Hi, you already know what it is. It's your friend Damien Howard here with another segment of Village Talks. And when I tell you all today, I am so ready for this conversation because we get to see live one of my favorite people and myself having a conversation, doing what we do, talking about life, really trying to use conversation to understand like how are we waking up today and all of the other days in a way that wants to make our lives matter. How are we waking up and putting our hands to the plow in a way that makes conditions better for young people and families in the city of Chicago? That's the type of stuff literally that we geek out on and we talk about. Now, I will say we're not nerds. I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself or my friend Robin a nerd. Maybe she does. So it's not like we're using all of this highfalutin conversation and jargon when we have real talk, but like that's really like a passion for us. And that's a passion and why this segment exists. Village Talks. Like, what are people doing? How are we collaborating in a way that allows us to enact that old adage that when the village gets activated, good things happen for our kids? It indeed takes the village coming together to raise our children. So, with that, Robin, I hope that not only will you come into this space and introduce yourself, but if there's like any particular pieces about your work, like unique fascinations that you have, I would really like you to front load that and tell us that on the front end because that definitely helps me to understand what we're going to get into a little bit more as we continue to talk. Floor is yours, Robin.
Okay. Hi, Robin Koelsch over here. I just want to start with like a little bit about me. You said like what kind of like what was the wording you used? In my head, you're like, what lights me up? What's a thing? You're vibing with that? Okay, great.
Yep, vibing all the way.
So I think it's important to kind of understand my background a little bit to kind of give you a sense of like how I show up and why, I guess to some degree. So I come from a family of a lot of sisters. I am one of five girls in my family, and so I grew up in a situation where if you had something to say, you better say it loud, you better say it fast, you better get it in there, right? So my way of communicating and my style has really evolved from that sort of positive energy and just like a lot of things happening. That's where I tend to come alive around other people and vibing in that kind of environment, like a family kind of environment. And beyond that, I come from a music background. So I come to education and young people through the arts, and I love to perform. It's something that not a lot of people, I think, in my passings and in my interactions would either admit or agree to. But I believe there's a little performer in all of us. And, it's just a matter of what stage you're comfortable on and who can get you to that comfort level. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. You said something about like, you don't consider me a nerd, and I'm going to take that as a compliment. But I will tell you that I'm going to take nerd back. I'm totally cool with being a nerd. I'm a nerd about some things. I'm a nerd about what you talked about, right? I'm a nerd about this conversation, what the village means and all of this. Like, let's get to it. It speaks to me completely and a lot of who I am and my core values of who I am. But I also love like data and a spreadsheet, and I will color code those spreadsheets. And that's just part of also who I am. So it's the dichotomy of really enjoying the stage and talking and interactions and people, and then also like loving a quiet moment under my heated blanket, like digging into a spreadsheet or some data. So all sorts of facets that bring this energy to most situations, which you well know.
Oh, absolutely. I know extremely well. I've seen some of these color-coded spreadsheets, and let's even take it further, PowerPoints with the different diagrams and all of the things. So, absolutely, I will gladly give you the nerd kind of mantle back. Uh, and it is all to the good. Robin, your disposition of being a performer and might I say loud, gregarious, in your face. I wonder, does that get you in trouble? I wonder, do you ever show up in spaces where you feel like you have to tone that down because of whatever social conditions that are going on around you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think this concept of like bringing your whole self everywhere is not something that I feel like anybody can do, right?
Mm.
I don't know that I even agree with it completely, because my whole self is a lot, and maybe that's not for everybody, and maybe that's okay, whether it's because they don't want to receive it or I don't want to give it, right? So I think that we reserve the right to do that. I think as I've grown as a human, I plucked out some gray hairs earlier. You can let go of some of that, of knowing that I'm going to show up in this space. It's not going to be for everybody. But in order for me to give what I need to give to get wherever we're going, this is how it has to look for me, without being disrespectful to certainly to anybody else in the space. But having said that, yeah, definitely. I had to learn the hard way a lot of times, like, oh, you can't just say that out loud in some spaces. That's frowned upon. You can, and you did, but maybe we could rethink that, be a little more tactful, perhaps. So I will say there's a notion of understanding both yourself and what you bring to a situation, and when to turn it up and turn it down, as opposed to not showing up or showing up.
The whole turning up and turning down, I had to come to grips, Robin, and this wasn't that long ago, with the fact that, man, Damien, when you show up in certain spaces, you show up talking a different way. I might show up dressing a different way. I might show up with my hair pulled to a, in a different, whatever it may be. And what I had to come to grips with, Robin, was this. I don't even call it code switching anymore. They're just different manifestations of who Damien authentically is, right? And being okay with the fullness and like spectrum of who I've been made to be and who I've been educated to be, who I've matured and evolved into. There's levels and there's colors, and that's okay. So I just wonder, if you can kind of speak
Yeah.
to your own process of going through that journey of, yeah, Robin can show up this way. Robin absolutely can show up as performer Robin, but at the same time, there is, a certain quote unquote professionalism that mandates that you show up in different ways. Like, how did you personally get to a process of being okay with the different manifestations of who you are?
Yeah, I think it comes a lot with just being okay with the fact that those are parts of me,
Mm,
and those parts make up a whole. And certain parts of each of us have been conditioned. Certain parts of us have been, poured into to allow us to really see those parts as who we are, as appropriate to be in those different spaces. But I think it's understanding that it takes all those parts to make up these complicated people that each of us are. And
mm,
I think once we understand that, it also provides a level of empathy, right? Like I might be seeing people in a moment where they're showing a part of themselves that they maybe wish I didn't see, right? They're
mm,
reacting in a way that later they'll be like, I wish I hadn't said that, right? And maybe there's some shame associated with that. But I feel like it's just acknowledging like that's a part of you, that's a part of all of us.
mm.
And when we can accept each other for that and see each other as full humans with these various parts, it allows us to come to a place, of compromise, of understanding, of being okay with one another, and
Yeah.
and dare I say celebrating these differences and these things that make these parts into a whole.
A celebration of what makes us different, what makes us unique, our own idiosyncrasies. A celebration of such, I think, could really have you and I to go on a journey, and have a conversation. Whereas we'll look up and we'll have to close the segment just talking on that one thing. I'm going to pivot and transition just to kind of save us from
Somebody's got to. Somebody has to take control
the,
here. So
the possibility of us just kind of yeah, being in one place, and for us to give a little variety here. Robin, I want to call us back to your introduction, because I think from the standpoint of us being so fond and knowledgeable of each other, we as the broader viewership don't know who you are, don't know what you do. So let's get back into that.
totally. So a part of me is I'm Robin Koelsch. I mentioned that. You know my name. That's fantastic. I use she, her pronouns. I've been in the education space for over 20 years. I know it seems impossible. but it's true. I've been in my current role at Communities and Schools of Chicago. I've been at the organization for 10 years. And that is an organization that focuses on relationship building with community organizations, school partners, making meaningful connections to do exactly what we know happens when there's more caring adults in your school community, and supporting students. There are positive outcomes for those students, both academically and otherwise. Currently, I'm the Chief Partnership Engagement Officer there, which I'm a little nervous to tell people about because it's the best job in the city, and I don't want anybody to try to take it from me, because I get to do really amazing things and bring a lot of great ideas and coalition building, collaboration, other great C words that I love to the table. And CIS of Chicago affords me that opportunity to use my creativity and my gregarious nature
Mm,
to support students across the city. We partner with 250 CPS schools, so that's about 40% of the district.
mm.
I feel both honored and a sense of responsibility with that information and with the opportunity I have at communities and schools.
Give us a story. Bring us into your world by way of helping to give, like I say, narratival color, like to just like when communities and partnerships and collaboration, when that goes well, what does that look like? I would love versus you just saying, hey, Damien, it looks like this, to give us an instance of when this felt right, when it looked right, when the data even confirmed that it was right. Bring us into
Mhm.
your world, Robin.
I have a story that's just like it's just really very recent, and I don't know that it fully illustrates what I want, but I think it gets to it, and it really illustrates to me really bringing it back to the village.
Mm,
This idea of the parts of me where I have a personal life and a professional life, but because of who I am, and I think what centers all of these parts, I connect all of these dots. I tend to do that sort of organically, and so in thinking about this idea of community and bringing it together in organizations and schools and kind of how does this all work and into my world? In my home, my husband is an instrument repair tech. So he repairs woodwind instruments. That's what he does for a living,
mm,
super good at it. And he has different clients come over from all wakes of life, students, young people, folks that have been playing for many, many years, all to get their instruments, which you might not know. Maybe you do something that you have. It's very personal. It's like giving your child to somebody to say, please, oh my God, please don't hurt it. It's a very special, right? So it can be emotional. So one of his clients is an older gentleman. He just turned 76 years old.
mm.
And he came over and said, hey, did you see me on TV? And Josh was like, no, I missed it. Like, tell me all about it. Well, this man has been giving back to his communities across Chicago through music education his whole life. He started community bands. He's finding instruments for kids just organically, just like doing it, right? Saw a gap, saw a thing, started doing it. Has changed lives. There
Mm,
are professional musicians who attest that they got their instrument in their hands from this man however many years ago.
mm,
So, as a thank you to him, one of his students started a foundation in his name
mm.
to support students in Chicago to get instruments and music education in their communities.
Wow.
And he's like, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody who might use that information?
Wow.
And my husband was laughing, but it's like those kinds of things. Part of it, I believe, it's what you put out into the world, right? Like
Yeah.
this man, Don Sadowski is his name, like he's amazing. He put that out in the world and he got that back, right? That he manifested that to some degree. And in my role, I get to take that and put it where it belongs and not be part of it, right? So the performer in me, right? I love the stage. I love, the drama of a hand clap, right? Don't get me wrong. But in these instances, it's so much more important to get the information where it needs to go, to get it in the hands of the young people, that the performer in me is somewhere else.
I don't know if I think it's a dopamine hit probably is the right kind of uh nomenclature to use to kind of talk about like that feel good sensation that comes when you get this raucous applause. Robin, you did it. You're amazing. You're the best I ever heard and best I ever seen. All of the things, right? But I can only imagine when you have instances where there's just so much alignment with an opportunity that you in this instance kind of randomly become aware of and based on your knowledge of having access to 40% of Chicago public schools, you're like, man, it's a bunch of schools that have lost their music departments, that have lost their ability to put tools and to put
Hmm.
these type of things in front of kids, and you're just like, oh, for like, do we know of anybody who can use these? I have hundreds of schools, right, that need instruments and that need people who can train these kids in that department. So I guess the question that I'm trying to get to, my daughter walked in, so I was kind of like
Hey.
distracted right there. No, so the question that I'm trying to get to is this. I don't know. I would imagine there's a similar sensation. There's this sensation of when I'm performing, there's a feel good when I've done a good job and I get that affirmation from the audience. But on the other end, when I'm able to make these connections and young people are served and I know that their life is going to be enriched because of the connections, like, is there a similar feeling? Talk us through that.
Absolutely. They are similar in I guess how they physically feel, but they speak to different things, right? Like the level of satisfaction that I receive, and I would venture to say anybody who is able to do something small. I view that as small, right? Like I get to use my platform to give this information to people that need it. Like that's a small thing that I can do that potentially has a big impact. And sometimes in those environments and in those situations, it can be difficult to trace that moment to that kid, right? I might not ever see that kid get the instrument. I might never be fully aware of that moment, but I trust that it's there. I know that it's there. So that satisfaction can feel different than an immediate, right, return on my investment. I did this thing and you're giving me this positive affirmation back in the moment. It's like the difference between when we used to have disposable cameras where you're just like, took a picture. I'm dating myself, took a picture. We'll see what it looks like later. Hopefully your son's not in it, to now taking 40 pictures of the same thing to get the right one, that instant gratification. They are different and they elicit different feelings. But there are some times where they combine. And that for me is when I get to, well, they combine in an interesting way because I don't always get that immediate gratification from the full room. But when I get to be in front of students, when I get to be directly in front of young people, it is super satisfying. It is a great reminder of so many things. It fills my cup up, and to the however many students in that room that are fully picking up on what I'm trying to give them, it's that immediate gratification. It's the kid coming up to me afterwards, like asking a question or showing me the sticker that they put on their binder, right? That's both.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And that's something that I would love to just continue to explore the similarities, right? And those type of emotions that we experience in different feel good environments. So, Robin, you and I work together on an initiative that is oriented around how can we do something in our time that we have on earth with our commitment and fascination with the city of Chicago that is oriented towards helping kids remain safe and feel safe in and beyond school buildings, right? Thinking about violence prevention, thinking about how can we align with a city that already cares so much about safety and is so concerned with safety. So I just wonder from a personal perspective, why do you even care about this initiative? And ultimately, what do you see coming out of the time that we're spending bringing people together and talking about violence prevention?
Thank you so much for bringing this up because I was reflecting on this earlier, and we've been doing this for a minute. We've convening people for a while here, and this question of why do I care is sort of, it's a meta moment because that's really what we're asking people to ask themselves as part of what we're trying to create, right? Why should you care? How can you be part of this if it's happening over there, right? It's that kind of notion. But I will tell you, for me, where I came to this, it really was asking myself, like, what am I worried about? What am I worried for young people? What keeps me up at night? Where is my concern? And is there anything that I can do about it? Right? I think asking yourself that question in a different format and in different walks of life can be a great just grounding moment of like, am I on the right path? Am I doing the things that I think really matter? Right. And what I kept coming back to was some form of belonging, centering, valuing young people, and recognizing that when that happens, that is an act of violence prevention. We know for a fact, we have data to support it for my other data nerds out there. Hit me up. We could talk about it all day. I got studies. We know that when those things are happening in our school communities, when our students feel that way, their outcomes are better, their mental health is better, their communities are feeling that way. There is a better sense of community, and there is less violence. These are not things that are being made up. These are things that are true. So if we know that,
I don't want to distract
then
you, Robin. I hope you can pick right back up. But what we also know is they're actually coming to school when they have that sense of belonging, right? So that makes them less prone to be out in community and susceptible to some of these things. So,
exactly.
yeah.
But it's all interconnected, Dame. It's that, but where we can have access to our students, where we know where they are, where they know that there is safety in their school building, right? Like we need to bolster that. We have an opportunity to do that. And what I hope comes out of this work, and what I'm not even gonna hope, man. I really believe this. I know it in my core. I do, because I've seen it. We've seen it happen, right? And really what I think we're getting at here is something that you'll read about in the white paper. We're creating a white paper preview. It's happening. We're in it. We're going to have it done by the end of this school year. So by the summer, look out. We're going to be hitting the town. We're going to need all the people to be in and part of it. But somebody we interviewed for the white paper talked about, and you'll have to read it to find out who it is. Uh, talked about how there's not enough on ramps and off ramps for community members or different people to get involved in something that maybe isn't directly in their face, directly available to them, or feels like it is that connected. And what I think the white paper sets out to do is to help all of us see how we can all be part of the solution. The question we ask is, what can any Chicagoan do? Where are the gaps in safety? What can we do about it? And what can any Chicagoan do? And it reminds me of the questions we ask young people in the Do the Right Thing program. You knew I was going to mention it. And what we ask them is to tell us, like, what are the solutions to violence in your community, to youth violence? And I stepped into all of these things with an assumption that it's these big ideas, these things that take years of funding and government assistance, and like, gosh, how are we going to break this rock down? And what I found was that the things that people and young people and the people we were interviewing, by and large, are telling us that any Chicagoan can do are small things that you could do in your own home as part of your own day. You don't have to give a lot of money. You don't even have to give your time necessarily, right? There are lots of ways to be involved without overextending yourself to whatever that comfort level is. We know also through data and studies that 53% of Chicagoans don't feel a sense of community. That's half our city.
Hmm.
How can we expect violence prevention and interventions efforts to be sustainable if we
Hmm.
can't build community? We know that the dollars are going to be there, and then sometimes they're not going to be there. We need sustainability, and the way to do that, if not us, then who? I mean, oh, you're getting me going. But that's the nature of this. That's my heart and soul. It's what I know to be true, and my hope is that through the white paper and the passionate people that have been putting this together, yourself very much included,
Yeah.
that resonates through this, and other people can see themselves as part of it and connect to it.
You know what literally came to mind was the part in Hamilton where he was just passionately talking about some ideas and ideals that he has, and the guys around him was like, "Man, somebody get this dude in front of a crowd, right?" Like, and then another thing I'm thinking of is, for whatever reason, I'm reading Tipping Point again, and
Mm,
just kind of talking about like those catalytic events, the context and the stickiness of it all that creates epidemics. So Robin, I don't know, you got me riled up, and I feel like we gotta
it's
we gotta get you in front of a crowd at
don't
that
get me
tipping
started.
point.
I told you I love a stage. I love a microphone. I love a crowd. Don't get me started. But I love the classroom. I love the moments too. I mean, just like we're talking about here, this village concept is it's everywhere. It's not just, in the classroom. It's everywhere. It's your every community you're a part of.
Robin, what is do the right thing about?
Oh, Do the Right Thing is an amazing writing challenge for middle school students. It's a national program. It takes place all over the country. Here in Chicago, it's been going on for years, like since the 90s, y'all. And I want to hear from more young people. It asks young people in sixth, seventh, or eighth grade to answer three questions in any writing format they want: a letter, a poem, a song, an essay, a story that's not true, whatever the vibe is. And they answer these three questions. What has been my experience with youth violence? What do I think the causes are? And what can I do about it? Right. And that's that piece where like my sort of adultism got in the way. And I was like, these kids will tell us to, go into the mayor's office. And they said, I want adults to check on me more often. I will be a better friend to other people. I will help my neighbor who I know is struggling with drug addiction. Those are the kinds of things that our middle school kids are telling us that they want and need for us to support. So it's connected to the village. It's connected to the violence prevention work very directly, and it's part of what we get to do as adults is be the listener, and that program really speaks to it. In fact, the tagline is "Students write, we listen." Change is possible. And I go into those classrooms and I read them quotes from Malala Yousafzai and Gandhi and Dr. King, and and I hope they feel empowered by it, right? One pen, one book, one child, one teacher can change the world. I believe that. I ask them to believe it. And if they say they don't, I tell them, guess what? You have to be the change then. You have to be the one that helps other people believe it. If you don't believe it, you got to be the change.
So it's do the
Right
WRITE
thing.
thing. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it so much. I love it so much. And it's so fascinating that it's something about the power and the positioning of podcast episodes. Whereas it's just, I don't know, my eyes are inclined to see, ears are inclined to hear. So I felt like as you talked about I've been hearing you talk about do the right thing literally for years now.
I,
And it's just like I heard it in a different way and I saw its connection to other synergies that you and I already have. So that was a powerful moment just for me to sit through and listen and experience all over again.
Thank you so much for giving me a platform to talk about it all. It costs $0 to
Mm,
be part of it as an adult to read it or a student to take part, and I need everyone to get involved. So let's do
wonderful.
it.
Wonderful. Yeah, so what I do, Robin, is I make sure that you, at least on LinkedIn, are linked to this. So I just want to make sure that as we are posting this, that however people need to get in contact with you so that they can connect to the resources that you're talking about, we certainly
Yeah,
want them to be able to plug in. So, Robin, it is so unfortunate that we've reached a part, particularly in
unbelievable.
this, what'd you say?
I said unbelievable. Honestly, it's rude.
We've reached a part in this segment where we got to work towards landing this plane, right? So I am going to drive towards that, but I'm going to load so much on you at the end of
Hmm,
the segment that I want you to speak to that it's actually ridiculous.
I'm
So let
ready.
me go ahead and start loading. The last thing, Robin, that I would like to do is really give you the floor to end this segment. And as you end this segment, I want you to imagine in your magical, imaginative brain that you already have, you receiving from Damien Howard right now this magic wand. And you have the ability to take that magic wand and make a positive impact in any way, shape, or form that you desire. Thinking of your workflows, thinking of experiences where you've seen kids most positively impacted and supported. Thinking of instances where the village can be activated more strategically, whatever it is. You take that magic wand at the end, you tell us how you would activate that thing, that you would leverage it to bring about positive change. And as you're talking about that, however you want to land this in a way that feels right for you, Robin, please do that. Before you talk about the magic wand, I want to call out the fact, Robin, that I just have such an appreciation for who you are as an individual. The
Thank you.
reason we started the way we started is because I always get value from your unique authenticity, the willingness that you have to always show up with the fullness of who you are. Yes, that takes different manifestations. It might look different at certain times, but it's always going to be 100% true to you, right? And as you show up with your truth sometimes, and as you show up with your truth, and as Dame shows up with his, sometimes we might have to pause and be like, "Hey, is that landing okay?" Because we'll speak over each other, you know what I mean, and all of the things, and it comes from all a place of love, all of it,
Hmm.
right? But we never feel a hesitation to lead with that. Now, if we got to clean it up or we got to ask clarifying questions, we will. If we got to check in, we will. But you always show up with your truth. So I'm going to ask you in this moment. I told you I was going to load a lot on you at the end. Like I want you in your truth, like to look at some of your ink that you have that's been kind of coming out to us, and like tell us like the why behind any piece of artwork on one of your arms there or in your hands.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the bee?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a bee, and can you see the talking nacho?
Okay.
Okay, so those were some of the first tattoos that I got. They're
How
my
old
kids'
were you? How
drawings.
old were you?
These are all as like a full grown adult. I got
Okay.
my first tattoo at 29,
Got it. Okay.
and now I've got like I 20 something. So it's
Okay.
here we are. But these are my kids' drawings, and I think they are such great representations of who each of them are that there's just a great reminder for me. So quick, my son drew this bee when he was in first grade, and
Mm,
he's in fourth grade now. I didn't know it was his bee. I was at his school because he was having a really, really hard time in school, and I was at the school a lot. And I walked by the bulletin board and saw just like the cutest bee I've ever seen in my life. I gasped and said, "Oh my God, that's the cutest bee I've ever seen in my life." And I looked and it was my son's drawing. And
mm,
I thought, gosh, if that's not the most hopeful thing I ever saw. This kid is struggling every day.
mm.
Every day he's having a hard day. And he still drew that bee. And that was his art. And so I thought, yeah, that's him. That's a good reminder. And then my daughter, she's super
Wait, no,
sassy.
no, we can't. We're going to get to that nacho because that nacho looked like it has some sassiness with it and all of the things. But but
All right.
let's park on the B for a second.
Okay, so dot dot dot. People reach out to me if you want the bee story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna land this plane for us.
No, 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 no. We're not gonna land it. We
Oh,
got to get to this B just a little bit more, a little bit
I
more.
thought you told me I had to be quiet. I thought you were shushing
Nope,
me.
nope, nope, nope,
Which,
nope,
by the
nope,
way, is very triggering. And I
nope.
managed my, did you guys see I managed my emotions?
I
I
wasn't
thought
doing
you were
that at
telling me,
all.
okay, then
I,
let's talk about the nacho.
Not the
Because
nacho yet, Robin. Not the nacho yet.
why?
I want
Why?
the B, because I have a question. I have a clarifying
Oh,
question.
okay. I'm sorry.
It,
Clarifying question about the
it,
bee. You got me feeling like where time is up and like the
no,
bomb is gonna go off and like, ah!
it is, but this is what we do. You know it.
All right,
We
all
go
right, all right.
outside of conventions and we just do it.
Okay,
So
I'll take
so
it down a notch.
the B, and maybe the nacho as well, but the B. I wonder. Is that something that you and your son together kind of come back to? Like it's beyond artwork. There's a whole narrative and story behind that. And even as a fourth grader, right? Whatever may have been going on in first grade, maybe some of that, still happens. Maybe he's still trying to navigate some of those things. And I can only imagine just the reality of the bee on your arm, where it's positioned, maybe potentially brings like centering opportunities for you all together. Maybe that is or isn't true, but I just wonder, like
Hmm.
that thing just hit me in a very visceral way. So yeah, we gotta land this plane. We do. We're
Okay.
gonna get to the
All right.
nacho. We're gonna get to the other thing.
Okay. Okay. I promise, but I will tell you that what you just said
Yeah.
is how I remind Leroy that he can do hard things. You
Wow.
can do hard things, man. You you got through that year was real hard, and
Wow.
you can do hard things. And he likes to, people like to tell the story that like my mom's got a tattoo of my artwork, right? So it's a great conversation starter. I'm sure, I mean, it's permanent, so it'll work for the rest of their lives. Um, but quick story about the bee, because this
Yeah.
encapsulates Leroy to me as like a sensitive soul
Yeah.
who's emotional, and it's like his first time on the planet. Everything is new, everything is exciting, everything is he's my son, right?
Mm,
He's a little bit of this, right? I
yeah.
see him a mile away. My daughter is not quite like that. She's got a little sass, but she drew this on her fourth
Show
birthday.
us the nacho again. We
Can
show
you
it.
see it? I
There we
can't.
go. We see it.
Okay.
Okay. So tell us about the
So
nacho.
so she drew on we took her out for her birthday, on her fourth birthday, to the pancake house, and she was drawing on the little whatever. And I said, "Oh, baby, what's that?" And she looked at me and goes, "A talking nacho."
Mm,
Just like that, with that mannerism. And I was like, "Oh, she's gonna be okay. She's gonna be
mm,
all right."
mm.
Like that's what she brings. She brings the sass, she brings the like, I don't know what that is. And not even in a cruel way. I mean, it'll cut you. But like I came downstairs the other day and I was just like going to like the doctor or something. I'm not like showing up. And she goes, "Oh, are you going somewhere?" I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, And I was like, oh, talking nacho. Yeah, that's you. That's good. Good
Man, I love
reminder. A little sass goes a long way. You can do hard things. Those are parts of us. They're good to be reminded of.
wow, wow. Because again, if it's not looked at in a way, let me say it this way, just the conventions of whatever space they might be in might be such where don't come in here with that sass and people are automatically, pigeonholing her in a way. And or again, all of what the B represents when your son is, manifesting the truth, the full truth of who he is. Again, like, certain spaces and people in those spaces can project certain things on them. So I don't know, and we even haven't gotten into the fullness of it now, but just that artwork, what it represents, the conversation starters, I just think it's so powerful. I got one little piece of ink on my arm. I don't think any more is
Mm,
there, but yeah, something. If it's another piece, it's going to have significance. I've been inspired today. Like
just go for it. I had that idea for a long time, and I was like, you know what? What am I waiting for? Let's go.
I
And I
hear,
just
and,
that,
and,
but you
and
pull the band-aid off, and now here we are. So
and
you
you've never stopped. It's going to be kind of like
nah
Justin
that
Bieber after a while, like the whole
well,
stick.
I don't no neck no. I mean, we'll see. I still got plenty of real estate left on my arms, team. So we'll see.
Robin, let's land this plane. Go ahead, take this
Okay,
wherever you want to take.
okay.
You have the
I
final
I
word, by the way.
oh my God, that's first of all amazing. Second of all, I think that's never been the case because I feel like I'm well, no, maybe it's always the case because even when you're done talking, I'm still talking after you as you try to leave. Okay, I'm landing the plane. I mentioned earlier that I've had the opportunity to go be in front of students to do the right thing workshops. And part of that workshop is I want young people to think about what makes things harder for you and for kids in Chicago and what makes things easier, right? This idea of risk factors and protective factors. I don't say risk and protective factors because those are adult words. And what I really want them to do is imagine a young person, not them, take it out of there, right? Not you, and you're it's a friend and they're having a really hard time. They're stressed out, like there's something going on. What do you think maybe is happening, right? And I get all of these answers. In the same way I say, well, okay, imagine that same friend, but they're doing okay. What's different for that friend, right? And they give me those answers related to often like they're talking to somebody, they're seeing a therapist, they're playing basketball, they're doing what they love. So these are the factors that we talk about. I then invite them to have these sentence starters for like things are safer for kids when um, things are harder for kids when, right? Like whatever those things are, a whole list of them. But the one, and I ask them to pick, and we have a discussion about it, or we write about it, whatever the vibe is in the classroom. But the one that they don't often pick to talk about on their own, that I will then ask them to talk about, is something I wish adults knew about kids is.
Mm,
And I just open it up. If they don't want to share, I just kind of open it up. And I say, I'm genuinely curious. I'm a mom. I'm a person in the world. I consider myself part of lots of different communities and lots of different villages. Like, what do you need us to know? And what they're saying are more often than not, hey, our struggles are real too.
mm,
This is hard. It's hard to grow up. It's hard to be in this environment. And you adults do not know exactly what I'm going through.
mm,
So that's just right out the gate, right? And then they say things like, I wish that adults knew that the smallest thing goes the long way, right? Maybe they're not saying that exactly, but like, give me a break, right? It's been a hard day. I'm tired, whatever those things are. And it just reminds me that like these are humans and we can humanize each other. We at least have that in common. And when I think about how that relates to how I show up and who I am and what I want to leave in the world and what that looks like, to me, that is about staying connected, about taking that next step, about leaving a place better than you found it by hearing something that somebody says they need done differently and by responding to that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but your attempt, your effort, your listening, your genuine ability to do that authenticity can make a real difference, not just for a young person, as I learned very much in my face. They wanted me to know that. And I'm a guest in their classroom, right?
mhm.
So they're telling me that. Imagine if you're a trusted adult they know and you ask that question, what do they want you to know about kids? taking that as an honor or responsibility and not just leaving it there, that's what's going to change the world. Those are the things that are going to make the big difference. I totally am down with all the different kinds of way we can impact change. I'm in civics, all of that, they're vitally important. But at the end of the day, if we are not standing up, if we are not showing up, if we are not getting off the sidelines and getting involved, even the smallest thing, nothing is actually going to change. It's on us. It's on each of us in these small moments, in these decision points that we have, these choice points. What are you going to do? I am going to listen to the young people and let other people know what I've heard and try to reflect that as an adult, navigating this world alongside them. They're the leaders. They're coming up. So I need them to believe the things I believe so that we have a puppies and rainbows future. But really the thing is just
And
don't be on
unicorn.
the sideline. Yeah, but you there's an avenue.
Yeah.
There's always something that could be done differently, the same, better, for your community. Sometimes it's just a matter of asking, or sometimes it's just a matter of doing.
Matter of asking. Sometimes it's just a matter of doing. Robin, I will not take away from the mic drop that you just gave us. So we're gonna close this thing on out. But what I do have to do is salute and congratulate you because we absolutely just broke a record. This probably went 10 minutes longer than any other segment that I've had.
Not
So
surprised, not surprised, but I'll take the honor. I'll take the trophy. Told you I love
so
the accolade. I did it on purpose.
so peace out, village. Thank y'all for tuning in. It was amazing. All right, all right.